My name is Jenny, for those of you who are new, and you're watching the butterfly sage. So here are 3 stems that kind of show what not to do and what to do. When pruning a hydrangea, you look for the bud and you want to cut just a little bit above the bud. The stem on the left is cut way too close to the nodule. The one in the middle is pretty close to being okay, and then the one on the far right was pruned way too high above the bud. This one here is a pretty good example of the right height above the bud to cut it and the right angle. You want to cut it at a 45-degree angle. Now, when talking about finding the bud and cutting above the bud, this is what I mean. Here's the top, and then those little pinky green things coming out down there, those are buds. So you want to cut and prune just above those. It's a lot easier to prune when those little buds are sticking out. Here's the bud, so I'm going to make a cut right above it. Going to try to do it at a 45-degree angle. Now, if you accidentally cut it straight across or at a 90-degree angle, plants are much more resilient than they're given credit for, and it's probably just going to be fine, so don't beat yourself up about it. There we go. And that is about the distance above the bud that you want to make the cut. One down, only 24 more to go. I would be amiss while pruning hydrangeas if I didn't talk about the main categories of hydrangeas, which are the big leaf mop head type hydrangeas, the smooth hydrangeas, the panicle hydrangeas, the mountain hydrangeas, and the oak leaf hydrangeas. And the reason I'm talking about them is because there are some, they need to be pruned at different times, some in early spring and some in early fall. The 2 types of hydrangeas that want to be pruned in the late winter or early spring are the panicle hydrangeas, which are the type of hydrangeas that I am pruning right now. They generally mostly take full sun unless you live in a very hot climate, in which case if you live in a hot climate, you're probably not going to be able to grow a hydrangea anyway. But the panicles have these cone-shaped, cylindrical looking blooms on them, just like what I am pruning right now. The other type of hydrangea that likes to be pruned in the late winter or early spring are the smooth hydrangeas. Those are the arborescens. They're the hydrangeas that usually have the big, huge, fluffy blooms. They're shaped like almost like a ball, and they're generally white in color, although there are a couple brands that have come out with pink arborescens. But generally they're white. And smooth arborescens are actually a host plant to the hydrangea sphinx moth. So if you like those, then get yourself a smooth hydrangea. But the other 3 types of hydrangeas that need to be pruned after they are done blooming, not in the spring. It's generally in early fall or late summer, right after they're done blooming. Those 3 are the big-leafed hydrangeas. Those are the big, like the blue ones, like the old-timey ones that your grandma probably had in her yard. And then there are the mountain hydrangea, which are the lace cap, and the blooms are generally a little bit spread further apart, and the blooms are kind of shaped like stars. And those are a really good type of hydrangea for pollinators. They're the number 1 hydrangea that attracts pollinators for nectar. And then the third type of hydrangea that needs to be pruned after they are done blooming is the oak leaf hydrangea, and those are native to the southeastern United States. Now, all 3 of those types generally need to be in a shady location, and the difference between telling a smooth arborescens and a big leaf can be somewhat tricky. The key is to look at their leaf shape. And then it also might be a little bit difficult to tell between a panicle hydrangea and the oak leaf hydrangea because they have a similar shaped bloom. But once again, you look at the differences in the leaf. The oak leaf hydrangea have leaves that look like oak tree leaves. But these here that I'm pruning are panicle hydrangeas, so they need to be pruned in late winter or early spring. looks like it's about to rain at any moment. I have 12 and a half done, which is half of them. So we're gonna call it for outside, and let's go inside and sow some seeds. So first, let's do the heuchera. I have no idea if I'm spelling this right, but now, as I mentioned last time when I was filling these up, you want to get the soil a bit moist. Not so moist that it's dripping water when you squeeze it, but just enough that it stays together in a clump. And then, when I fill it, I poke holes in it just a little bit and then refill it, because otherwise when you water it, the soil goes down too much. You don't want it doesn't need to be like super compacted tight, just a couple of fingers pressing down. That should be enough. I'll finish filling the rest of them and then we'll sow the seeds. Okay, so here's the heuchera that I am planting. Sow them 1/8 of an inch deep, so that's not very deep at all. I don't know if you can see how tiny these seeds are. Look how tiny those are. I know I'm going to get more than one in each cell. That's fine because these seeds are fairly old. I'm just gonna sow a little bit in each one. And if I have to thin them out, that's fine. It says on this packet that heuchera should be part shade to full sun, and I don't know if these heuchera are different, but generally heuchera like more shady locations, so I don't know about that. We shall see. I'm gonna plant this in a mostly shaded area. It probably gets 4 hours of sun in the area I'm going to, well, it kind of depends. The area I'm going to put them in are a little bit difficult, and part of that area gets 4 hours of sun, and part of that area gets 6 hours of sun, which is technically considered full sun. So we shall see. It'll be an experiment to see which side does better, or if they all do the same. So there's the heuchera, and then I'm going to put the tag in. Now these Shasta daisies, I should have planted them like 4 to 6 weeks ago. I just read that they take 10 to 12 weeks. I know I spelled that wrong. We are about 5 to 6 weeks away from our last frost date. So I'm about a month behind on sowing these Shasta daisies. The rest of them should be okay. Okay, so now I'm going to use a mister to water them in, because we don't want to spread the seeds apart when you first water them after you sow them, especially things like the ageratum and the salvia, because those need light for germination. They are just supposed to be gently pressed into the top. You might have seen me do that, and so we don't want to bury them down in the soil, so we're just going to mist them on the first few waterings, and then after I will probably just pour some water underneath so they get watered from below. Tomorrow I will do that again with the mister and add some water from underneath as well. But before I put them under the light, I'm going to add a top. So why am I adding a lid called a dome? Because it's going to give it condensation and help it stay moist until tomorrow when I water them. So let's close this just for a few days. After a few days of them sprouting, I'll take the dome completely off. Okay, now they're under the grow lights. It's a new day, and I finally got all the hydrangeas pruned. The hydrangeas are done, and all those blooms that I just left out, my husband's lawnmower will suck it all up, I hope. If not, I'll have to come back out and pick the rest of them all up. But all the hydrangeas are done, and no, I didn't record it because I had already recorded some of it, and I just needed to get out here and get it done. So now they're all pruned all the way around. So now it's time to finish pruning the roses because today is our second day of really warm weather. It got to 73 yesterday. If I don't get them done today, they are going to poof. They are going to poof out with blooms. Now, pruning roses are very similar to pruning hydrangeas in the fact that you want to cut just above a bud at a 45-degree angle, and it's best if you choose an outward facing bud so that the new growth heads out away from the rose plant, because you don't want more growth heading inward towards the rose plant, because the inner part of the rose, you want to keep it open to keep it healthy. So that's going to be it for today, guys. I did manage to get all but 3 of my roses done. I think that's 51 out of 54. I'm going to leave my old big ones until next year at this point so I don't drive myself crazy. But thanks for coming along and for watching. And until next time, feed the pollinators for me.